Before I begin with this video narration, it's very important to kind of figure out, okay, how are you downloading and using these files, and what kind of computer are you using? If you're using a computer that's on campus, like a student technology center computer, or one that's in our classroom, what's going to happen is as you use the computer, as you use the ArcGIS software, it's going to be best for you to do one of two things. Save it to a thumb drive, something that you insert into the computer and then save it onto that, or save it up into the cloud, whether it be Google Drive, Box, whatever it might be. So I would not suggest storing it on the desktop, because what's going to happen is as you use that desktop, it's going to wipe it out every time you log off. So we want to keep those files. We don't want to lose those files. We don't want to take a break and come back and lose everything. So it's very important. If you're someone that's going to be using it on a shared computer on campus or in the classroom, I suggest saving it in the cloud or on a thumb drive. Now, if you're using your own personal desktop, your own laptop, follow these instructions and I'll show you how I do this. And so I'm going to go ahead and save this to my hard drive, save it to my desktop. So this is the landing page from the previous here. So you click on each of those and you get to this. And so just essentially right click, save link as, and I'm going to put it in my desktop. Save. And I'll do the same for the other one, for the US state, save link as, and I'm going to save it to my desktop. Now, once again, if you're someone who's on campus, this is where you're going to save it to a thumb drive, or if you have access to Google Drive, a cloud, whatever it might be, go for it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at those files. And so those have been added. Notice they're zipped. Now I need to unzip them. And so right-click, extract all. And so this might not be the same for your computer, so figure out how to extract. I think for this particular case, for me, and when I'm using Windows, it's already comes for me, in which it has that dialog box. It says extract all. Yep, extract, and we'll then do that with the other one. Extract all. And so what we have here is these are the shape files. And so the shape file is actually just this one, .shp. But notice there's these other additional files as well. Very important when using shape files is when you're in ArcGIS, you might not see all these files. And I'll show you what I mean later. You might just see a couple of them. You'll definitely see this .shp. That's important. That's the shape file. So that's the shape file. So this is the US state. So I've extracted both of those. And that's very important. Why I say that's important is when we're in ArcGIS, it won't recognize these zip files, but it will recognize unzipped files. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to go to IU Anywhere. And once there, go ahead and go to the VPC STC. And if you see this pop up, this is very important. You want to click Read Write Access. What that means is this is going to access your desktop on your actual computer. Because once again, this is kind of confusing at first. We have our virtual PC desktop here, but then we also have our regular desktop back here. So what I want is I want to be able to access my local files, access that thumb drive, access that Google Drive or that cloud. So we want to click Read Write Access. I'm going to go ahead and expand the view. So now the VPC has taken over my entire page. What's very important is if I save something, if I put files here and then I log out, all those files are wiped out. That's just the way this is at the moment, the VPC STC. Every time, I guess it's a way to minimize the amount of stuff being stored on there. The bandwidth, stuff way above me. So that's what's going on there. So what we can do is we can access those files by going to this PC. I just want to mention that as far as how do we locate our particular files. This is going to be something that's very important. All right, so because I already chose beforehand that read write access on that pop-up, now I have options available to me. If I did not click that, if I clicked no, I don't want those, or just read only, I would not have these available to me, these device drivers. So I have a removable disk option in which I can store stuff. In this case, I have Google Drive. I personally don't use it, but if you've got that, then use it. So these are different ways to store it. In this case, because I'm showing the example sort of how to store stuff on a desktop, we're going to use the local disk. It's very important. You might have this particular name. You're going to have to get used to it. So if you're using this your own desktop, your own laptop throughout the rest of the semester, figure out this particular pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this local disk, and then I go down to users. In this case, this is my name. I don't know what your computer's called, how it names you, but try to figure out which folder it is. And then I'm going to click desktop. And what do you know? Right there we have our particular files. And so the file that I want is right here and right there. So if I wanted to, I could then copy and paste these onto the virtual PC desktop, but it really wouldn't benefit me because once again, those files are wiped out. And also we're going to be saving everything to the desktop. So we can essentially just use this VPC to do our ArcGIS. Okay, speaking of, let's go ahead and let's use ArcGIS. And so I'm going to go to Analysis and Modeling, and I'm going to do ArcGIS Pro. For this particular one, we're just going to start without a template, just to get you going. And this is what pops up. Here we have what's going to be our layout or our map view. So this is where the map's going to be. This is the contents pane, or the table of contents pane, the TOC as I might call it. And then this is the catalog pane. And we'll also see other things over here like processing. So we'll be able to run processing over here. All right, what we need to do is we need to get to that data. We need to get to those county shape files and state shape files that are on our particular desktop. So to do that, go ahead and go to Folders, right-click, Add Folder Connection. And this is where, once again, we're going to do whatever is best for us. And so if you're a cloud person, go ahead and Google Drive. If you're a thumb drive person, removable disk. And if you're doing the desktop like I am, we're going to go ahead and click on this particular one. And once again, the same pattern, users, name, in that case it's mine, desktop. And you'll notice those zip files aren't shown here. And it's because we've unzipped them, we've extracted them. And so I'll go ahead and I'll just click on or highlight the US county. Okay. And if I hit this triangle, you'll see that then if I do this other one, that it's been added. So beforehand, remember we had all those different files in that particular folder. Now we just have 3. And the most important one is right here. So this is county 1. Go ahead and right click, add to new. And we want to choose map. And so while that's adding to the map, let's connect another folder. And we're going to connect to the state. Click on OK. And we'll add that to the map. And I chose Add to Current Map for that option. All right. One of the things is when working with ArcGIS, especially in the IU Anywhere Online, especially here at the beginning of the semester, it's kind of slow, it's bogged down. So we have to do is whatever it takes to make it go faster. So I suggest clicking off World Hillshade and clicking off World Topographic Map. It's just essentially more stuff that the computer's trying to do. In this case, it doesn't matter to us to have those underlying base maps. All right, let's take a look at some of the things we're looking at. Very important. Right now you're seeing this circle happening. And so what's happening is it's drawing the counties. And so it's drawing the underlying counties underneath the state. So anytime you see that circle in which it's moving, it means there's something happening. So don't think that your computer's just frozen or something's going on. It's just important to note if this is your first time using GIS, it's like this. It's been like this for 20 years. I don't know why it hasn't been better. I don't know. I don't get it. But it's sluggish at times. And so if you see that happening, stuff is going on. Don't freak out. Don't melt down just yet. All right. And so what we can do is we can change these. And so if I wanted to have the counties on top, I would just essentially move it up there. But in this case, I don't want to do that. I just want to leave things as is. Here in the contents pane, we have our layers. So essentially I can click on, click off the layers. So this is list data by source, and so this is important. I can see where that file is for these particular layers. I can see the sources of them, where they actually originate. Go ahead and move that back. Up here are different things. I can zoom in or pan in and all of that. I can do different things. I can add data, so that's going to be something important. That's the Add Data button. If I wanted to go back and add a base map, I go here. That will then update these or these particular maps here. I can choose different ones than the ones they've given me. All right, so let's get to the point of the exercise. What we're trying to do is we're trying to select certain counties from certain states. So what we're going to do here, in this case, the U.S. state, I'm going to use it mostly just for its boundaries. I'll come back to that. So let's go ahead and let's select the individual counties that we want. So we're going to do something called the select by attributes. So you'll see that right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to select those states that include Indiana and all states that touch Indiana. All right, and so I've put those as a list on the exercise instructions. Here in the selection type, let me step back up. The input rows, I want to choose county because I'm trying to select the counties that are within these certain states. And I want, in this case, I want to add this to the current selection. You'll see what I mean here. So then click the new expression. So I want to select all those states that are equal to, as you see in the instructions, the states that I want are Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, Michigan, and Ohio. Indiana, its number is 18. So go ahead and click down here, 18. So state FP is equal to 18. Let me go ahead and explain, okay, where are we getting that information? So if I go ahead and I open up the attribute table, so I right-click on this particular layer, right-click on county, attribute table. This is our spreadsheet, big old spreadsheet. So here are all the various counties of the United States. The state FP is unique to each state. And so Indiana's unique state is 18. So that's our unique state FP, 18. So Ohio County is in Indiana. So this is actually not Ohio, this is a county in Indiana. And so this attribute table, I want to select just the state FPs that are 17, 18, 21, 26, and 39. So let's go do that using our select by attributes option. So once again, county, I want to add to current selection, new expression, state FP is equal to Indiana. I'm going to add a clause. I also want OR. So remember, we're doing multiple. So OR. So state FP is equal to Illinois is 17. Add a clause. OR state FP Kentucky is 21. Add a clause. State FP is equal to Michigan is 26. Oh, that should be OR. Add a clause, or state FP is equal to Ohio is 39. Go ahead and hit click on apply. And it gives us a warning. Go ahead and click on OK. And now we should see those teal areas. Let's go ahead and right click on the county. Choose the selection option. What we're going to do is we want to make a layer from the selected features. And so essentially I want to make a layer from those. All right, so we're good now. So this particular county map, we no longer need it. So we can either check off the box or I'm just going to remove it. We're going to do the same thing with the states. We're going to select by attributes, making sure to choose state, selection type, add to current selection, new expression, and we'll do the same thing we just did. Now I'm going to choose the zoom to layer, and now we've zoomed in and we have our states that all touch Indiana, including Indiana. And to find those counties, we're actually going to see them when we click on the symbolic, choose, let's say, black outline. We can choose that one. And now we can see those counties. And essentially what I did was I made this state map hollow. And that's why it's important that I had state on top of county. If not, we'll go ahead and I'll show you what happens. Now, essentially that has been hidden. You can't see the border of Indiana with the other ones. Now you can. I'm going to right click on this over here onto this county layer. I'm going to change the symbology. So I'm going to click on symbology. Here in this case, I want unique values. So I want every single county to be a different color. So click on unique values. I want that to be based off of the county's GOID. What that is it takes two things. It takes the state number and then it combines it with the county number. So each of those individual counties is going to have a unique GOID. So I'm going to do that based on GOID. Click on yes. And now I have a map of all the various counties that are in Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky, with that borderline being shown by that state selection. All right, now that we have all of our counties, let's go ahead and go to New Layout. And these are the various types of documents. And so if you're printing these out, actually for publish or something to actually hand to somebody, then this is kind of things to consider as far as paper size. If you're thinking about making it for a poster, all those things, this is where it comes in importance. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose, in this case, the 8.5 by 11. We want portrait mode. With Indiana, we just kind of naturally lend ourselves for the portrait mode. Most things are shape. So what's going to happen here is we get this particular blank screen here. So what I want to do is I want to do a map frame. So essentially what I want to do is I want to choose the map that I just made. So I'm going to choose that. And then I'm going to try to make it as good as I can. I'm going to go from one corner to the other. So that's now our map frame. So now we can start adding elements to our map. Remember, we have those elements of every map. First off, let's go ahead and add a north arrow. And so we can choose whichever one we want. Let's choose, that one. We'll put it, let's say somewhere down here. You can put, this is wherever you want. This is where you're now the designer. So you can make it bigger, smaller. We'll critique all that kind of stuff later. We're just trying to get the elements of the map on the map. So here we have different types of scales. So you have all these different options to choose whichever one you think is coolest. I'm just going to choose scale 1. And once again, you have these kind of design guides that will help us out later on when we're kind of more worried about that. But we have next up, we have our scale. So we have all of our key. This case, the legend, because it's going to be all those individual counties, we don't need it. So I'm not going to include the legend this time. We can have other things. We can add a frame around all of this, kind of tidy it up. Now let's add some text. So let's add some text. So dynamic text. And we'll do name of map. We'll put that up here. Expand it, make it a little bigger. Try to center it. We're going to call it whatever we want. So to do that, right click, edit text. And then over here, you should be able to change that. Yep, highlight that and we'll say Indiana and surrounding states, counties. So this is obviously a little bit too big here, so I'm going to try to get over here and get this corner. Where can I? Come on, let's get over here. Where are you, Joe? And we'll make it, squeeze it in. All right, so I finally got that. I took off the word wrap, so now I finally got that. And then finally, let's go ahead and add your name. And we'll choose credits. right there. Credits. And we'll put in your name. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to save this sucker. So the first thing to do is save it. We probably should have been doing this as we go. So I'm going to save this onto my own desktop. Once again, I'm not going to give the whole rigmarole. But if you're doing this on a computer that's shared, do your thumb drive, do the cloud. If you're doing this on your own desktop, same system. And so you can get in the habit of putting them all in your cartography file, or you can put it in the exercise 1 file. Just, you know how your habits are in terms of storing stuff on a computer. But I do suggest storing things in a way that you can identify it in an organized way, because it'll just make things a whole lot easier as we get going on. It's also important to note that if you start moving around files and then you load up this particular map, you have to then reconnect with those files if you move them around. So it's something also to keep in mind. That's why I usually don't like messing and moving folders around when I'm playing with my GIS. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll save that. We can save that wherever you want. I'm going to save that in my cartography file. And so it's being saved as untitled. So I haven't, I guess, named this one. So you can go back if you want and name this project, whatever you want. Now we're going to go to Share, Export Layout. Change your option here to JPEG. And so what it's going to do is it's going to save it. Make sure you are aware of where it's going to save it. Leave everything else as is. Click on Export. Now go find that file and save it as your last name _ exercise _1. So essentially what you do is then upload that to your exercise 1, and that's the map component to this particular exercise.